Coming up tonight in our news, 7 people allowed entry into the country without COVID-19 tests. Meanwhile, a teenager who was fined for selling coconuts speaks out. And labor officials say unemployment won't improve until the fall.
Our news is brought to you by Aliv.
Welcome to Our News, and thanks for joining us. I'm Jared Higgs. Topping news tonight, Free National Movement Chairman Carl Culmer said today he is disappointed by comments made by Deputy Chief Medical Officer Dr. DeLon Brennan regarding family islands that have not been allowed to open despite having no coronavirus cases. Culmer said Brennan's comments only cause confusion. Jillian Gray reports.
F&M Chairman Carl Culmer has taken issue with a statement made by the Deputy Chief Medical Officer in a local daily. According to the Tribune, Dr. DeLon Brennan said he does not know why some family islands without COVID-19 cases have not been allowed to resume commercial activity, adding that is not a Ministry of Health level decision. Well, the F&M Chairman found those comments disappointing.
I'm disappointed that the good doctor would come out and say something like that. When his other colleague gave out a reason why the delay in opening up the other islands.
In his national address on Sunday, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis said that Cat Island, Long Island, Abaco, and Andros could resume commercial activity. With the Barry Islands, Exuma, Eleuthera, and San Salvador noticeably missing, many took to social media to ask why some COVID-19 free islands were excluded from the list. One user said, "I don't understand. Why is Exuma and Eleuthera still locked down? We have 0 cases." Another said, if the people in Eleuthera are breaking all the rules and there are still no cases, it should be blatantly clear there are no cases. So Pharaoh, let my people go. They were referring to a motorcade in South Eleuthera over the weekend where several cars drove past a deceased male's home, honking their horns to pay tribute. Culmer has come to the defense of the government, stating the Prime Minister always consults medical professionals before making a decision, adding the conflicting voices on the issue is not productive for the country.
When you speak in that particular environment, you should speak with one voice. You should have one person saying exactly what it is. And I think the good doctor, what's her name again? She did an excellent job. She did an excellent job explaining why the other islands were not open.
The F&M chairman said it was not the proper forum for Dr. Brennan to air that opinion and suggested those things should be said behind closed doors.
I don't know if it's an attempt to create confusion and to play into the narrative of the opposition, but it doesn't speak well for the profession when you have a difference of opinion like that. And it's not that you're trying to hinder persons from giving their opinion, but when you and you're the deputy medical director, then you sometimes you need to understand that majority of the folks, the decision that is made is binding on all folks.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
An 18-year-old man who was jailed for selling coconuts is relieved to be free and insists that he's just trying to do the right thing. I sat down with him earlier today.
I was only trying to make an honest living. Me and I hope walking out doing anything bad.
18-year-old Jason Williams says he was just trying to help support his family when he was arrested for selling coconuts on the side of Harrell Road. He spent a weekend in a holding cell at the Nassau Street Police Station before being taken to court on Monday.
They handcuffed me. They put shackles on me, make me feel as though like I do something bad, like a murder or something.
The lifelong Culmersville resident was charged with violating curfew and operating a non-essential business. He pleaded guilty and was fined $400 for selling the coconuts and $300 for breaking curfew.
I didn't feel bad in a way, but at the same time, I still had my open gut.
Social media backlash was swift, with thousands slamming the young man's arrest and offering him assistance. One user wrote, "More and more this country shows me it is not for the Bahamian people. We are not supposed to live well or enjoy our land." Another wrote, "Then they wonder why crime's so high. Fella trying to make an honest dollar in these very hard times." Another wrote, "This has to be a crude joke. Ain't no way in hell a young man can be fined for selling a naturally grown nut." The fledgling entrepreneur, who didn't have a business license, was overwhelmed by the outpouring of support.
I'm shocked because I didn't even know that was going on.
The 2019 C.I. Gibson graduate says he is still figuring out his future, but coconuts provide him with an income while he tries to find a job. He also lives in a household with 4 adults where only one is able to work right now due to the pandemic. He says he is sticking to the straight and narrow path, and his work helps to keep him focused.
I tried to stay with arm's length. That's why I started to do the coconut. Try to make something. Try to make something for me later on, rather than me gangbanging or robbing or doing something bad.
Williams' arrest is an indictment on government's current economic policy that only allows certain businesses to operate during the pandemic. Other store owners have complained that they aren't able to have customers in their stores while other businesses, like fast food chains, are. Williams, on the other hand, says he just wants to be a positive influence on other young men in the area he lives in. He says his family is massively supportive of him, and he wants to have his own children one day.
I'm going to teach my son. I'm going to show him the way of life. How to live. If I have a daughter, I doubt I have a daughter, but if I do have a daughter, but if I do have a daughter, the same go for I have to show her the steps of lifestyle.
Many have expressed a willingness to help Williams, and his court fine was paid. Now, Williams' fine was paid by a local advocacy group, and many have reached out to help him get his business license. Meanwhile, 7 people were granted permission to return to the Bahamas from Jamaica this month without being tested for COVID-19, according to a letter signed by Bahama Civil Aviation Authority's Director General. Bethany McDermott tells us more.
A letter dated May 14, 2020 was sent to President of Trans-Island Airways Paul Arana from Bahama Civil Aviation Authority Director General Charles Benaby, granting approval for a flight with 6 Bahamians and 1 Bahamian work permit holder on board. Arana told Our News Today proper protocol was followed.
They paid for the flight themselves at no burden to the Bahamian Treasury, and the government of the Bahamas, through the Ministry of Health, used the established protocols to allow the flight to enter. The passengers were then taken to the quarantine facility where they're going to stay for 2 weeks.
The letter reads, "It is understood that the persons in question may not be in possession of a valid PCR COVID-19 molecular swab test, and as such, it is understood that said test will be administered by Ministry of Health officials upon arrival in Nassau." However, Deputy Chief Medical Officer Dr. Dawn Brennan told the Nassau Guardian that the individuals are being quarantined at the government facility and would be tested if they develop symptoms consistent with the virus. Brennan added the passengers ages 28 to 52 were unable to access testing while in Jamaica.
Where Bahamians were brought home with all the necessary approvals in accordance with the statement that the Prime Minister made on May 3rd. So had anything been violated or a protocol been breached, then of course it could have been newsworthy. But there was no breach of any protocol. Really, this landing was no different than a landing that would have taken place on February.
Government's policy is that anyone returning to the Bahamas would have to be tested for COVID-19 prior to their flight. They will also be subject to a 14-day quarantine. The Prime Minister faced criticism over his decision to close the country's borders to Bahamian citizens and residents on March 27th. Eventually, the first group was allowed to return home on May 8th. 2 return flights are scheduled for Thursday and Saturday. Reporting for Our News, I'm Bethany McDermott.
Acting Director of Labor John Pinder says it is unlikely that record levels of unemployment will begin to decrease anytime soon. Pinder said pre-COVID-19 job numbers are likely years away. Jasmine Brown reports.
Pinder says the unemployment situation will continue to be bleak over the next few months. However, he predicts things will begin to get better by the fall.
I believe around October, October, November, I think things will get better. Now, we just got to pray, though, that there's no no more outbreak of this thing.
Pinder explained that even though the tourism industry is expected to restart this summer, it will not be a quick fix for the Bahamian economy that was battered by the pandemic over the last 2 months. The acting labor director projected that the economy will begin to rebound by October of this year, but warned that the escalating unemployment rate isn't expected to return to pre-COVID-19 numbers until about 2022.
I believe that 30% will reduce, especially by 2022, simply because of the projects that are expected to be completed by that time. There are some of those projects that will certainly create permanent employment for persons. And so while they're being built or being constructed, you will see several Bahamians employed temporarily. And so, again, you know these things are coming. Start to prepare yourself for the opportunities and the vacancies that will exist in these various projects.
Pinder's comments come nearly a month after he told our news team that unemployment in the Bahamas could reach 30%. Government revenue has plummeted by an estimated 50%. While the government is expected to lose income, Pinder says its ability to keep people employed during the COVID-19 crisis has helped to keep the domestic economy up and running.
We thank God that the government did not have to make a decision on the public service. I believe for the most part, the public service is carrying the economy right now. But for the most part, the bulk of the essential workers are civil servants. And so we are really carrying the economy right now. I'm grateful to the fact that they're able to spend money.
Even before COVID-19, the unemployment rate climbed slightly in New Providence from 9.4% in May 2019 to 10.7% in December 2019. 18,195 persons were registered as unemployed at the time. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Thanks, Jasmine. Agreements between Bahamas Power and Light and Shell North America are expected to be signed in just a matter of weeks. The deal could eventually lead to more cost-efficient and reliable energy. Cal Joaquin has a story.
We are really in the final touches there, and we are talking weeks and not months in order to get to closure. And then, of course, these agreements, we call it pens down, will basically be pens down on the agreements, and then they'll go into the respective approval processes of the government.
The 20-year deal will see Shell North America purchase the majority stake in PowerCo, including stations A and D at BPL, and own the majority share of Terminal Co., a liquefied natural gas terminal to be built at Clifton Pier. Plans for BPL to turn around and end up purchasing energy from the company has been a sore point for some who have criticized the deal. But Shell North America's General Manager for Market Development, Marcus Hector, says that part of the deal still stands, but government will have a say in how much it pays for the energy.
So that's in principle unchanged, and we're closing the agreements accordingly. And as you recall, the plans for Shell tend to purchase its share in those power stations at a fair market value price, obviously subject to government approvals.
Shell and BPL signed a memorandum of understanding to formalize the negotiation process in November 2018. And while the world has been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, Shell's investment and the timeline for the LNG plant at Clifton Pier have been pushed back a few months from late 2021 to mid-2022. However, the completion of Station D remains set for next year.
Of course, there are things that need to be finalized and approvals that need to be taken. And of course, there is a level of uncertainty given the current environment that we need to expect, but the goal is unchanged. And we are also optimistic that we can get there.
And while the deal is just about done, there are some key aspects still being worked out. With the introduction of LNG and the stabilization of power in about 2 years, Hector was asked about the rate at which Bahamians can see a reduction in their electricity bills.
So we're not privy to talk about the impact to the final customer bill. That would be with BPL, where you have to place that question. But it is, I want to emphasize that the generation facilities and the intent of the venture to be building these generation facilities is to get to low cost and reliable power supply for the people of Bahama.
There has also been discussion over the amount of ownership Bahamians will have in the two entities. According to Hector, that's part of the deal still being worked out. For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Still to come, how Exuma businesses are faring, plus the PLP slams the arrests of some curfew violators. Stay tuned. Exuma saw a booming tourist season after Hurricane Dorian shut down Abaco and Grand Bahama's tourism industries. But the COVID-19 pandemic brought all of that to an end. Jerome Sawyer spoke with some business owners about what it's been like for those who continue to operate.
I'm satisfied with the information provided, and so we'll go forward from there. We shouldn't have no issues from this point on.
Strict enforcement as officers meet all arriving flights to ensure civil aviation approval. While police officers remain active, life for the rest of Exuma remains pretty much at a standstill. With curfews and the full lockdown enforced, residents like Tina Hertz remain hopeful.
I just hope this all ends pretty soon, but we're no different from the rest of the world.
Few cars are on the streets, with the majority seemingly on the way to places like Prime Island Meats. Owner Dale Kemp has pretty much the same perspective as food store operators in New Providence. A steady customer base and no shortage of supplies.
When it began, it seemed a little slow, faster than now, but now it seems to have leveled out. Even the shipping down here is continually, it hasn't stopped. Yeah. The only negative to that is we do notice that some of the products that we usually get, like they lack in Nassau, but that's okay. But we've been getting a constant flow of product coming in through, the Bahama ferries, the Island Link, and the mailboats.
While disappointed that Exuma does not now enjoy the same eased restrictions as other family islands, he takes the view that safety is a lot more important.
I feel pretty secure here without people coming in. That's the thing that, I'm happy with. Now, how that's going to work in the future, whatever, that's another story.
And even more pleasing has been the response to the needy.
A lot of the churches, we had winter residents helping a lot. It just never stops. So that's been a very good thing for the people that are needy and need the help.
His brother Ronald Kemp is hopeful for a good summer season.
Summer's coming, and that's when the Europeans normally come, so we going to have to figure out how to work that out, because we go through like a time here during the year, September, and it just kind of dies.
As a native, I feel that Exuma is like the second city to Nassau, to be honest. So I'm hopeful for better things once this all, passes us.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jerome Sawyer.
The Progressive Liberal Party slamming the government over arrests and fines imposed on individuals accused of violating curfew. Senator Jobeth Kobe Davis offered this suggestion.
Why would we fine $700 on someone who obviously went out to acquire funds to care for themselves, care for their families? And it's not that we don't want anyone to abide by the curfew, but what we want is for the police officers, for the magistrates, and for the government to apply discretion, empathy, and compassion as they're executing the emergency orders. So we are not oppressing our people even under these uncertain circumstances.
PLP Chairman Fred Mitchell said hefty fines are only oppressing people who are already struggling to survive.
There are a range of penalties that a magistrate can offer. A magistrate can discharge you, absolutely. For example, that should have been the case in someone who's going to the pump to get water to drink. Just discharge you, absolutely. There's also community service. That is an option which is available. There's also the discharge with conditions. If you be of good behavior, that sort of thing, rather than going straight to fining someone money which they obviously do not have.
Still to come, Cat Island residents back in business. Stay tuned. Cat Islanders are excited to get back to money-making ventures such as crabbing and fishing now that emergency measures have been relaxed. George O'Bain reports.
Commercial activities such as construction, fishing, and farming are now in full effect on Kit Island.
Farmers in Kit Island were very excited and relieved that they can continue to do farming. Poisons has even expanded their farming here on the island. So there should be large amount of crops during this season. And the fishing industry here in Kit Island, Poisons are now relieved. And during the time of lockdown, they were making preparations. A lot of boats are now prepared and ready, and Poisons fishermen are now heading out and collecting fish.
Kit Islanders have been taking the coronavirus seriously, according to Omar Stubbs, Chief Counselor of the Kit Island District Council. He said a number of businesses and government offices have clear signage posted that no one will be served without a mask. Meanwhile, Island Administrator Neil Campbell says Kit Islanders are happy to get back to work.
I think that the economy of Kit Island has really held its own as far as there wasn't any major drop, nor any increase, remained stable. Kit Islanders are more or less used to, like what the Deputy Chief Constable would have said earlier, that we're used to the farming, the fishing, government service, construction. And just as the other members said, it was very important that these persons get back to work.
While residents in New Providence stood on grocery lines for hours, Campbell said there was never any concerns over a food shortage on Kit Island.
For the most part, Kit Islanders are very resilient, very creative, and very hardworking. And although we may have closed our borders and everything else, we still had the mailboat calling to our harbor in the Smiths Bay area. So goods were regularly coming in and out each and every week. The food store shelves were packed and everything else.
Reporting for our news, I'm Georgie O'Bain.
The Grand Bahama Disaster Relief Foundation has delivered food to 200 families in communities on Grand Bahama. The charitable arm of the Grand Bahama Port Authority partnered with Urban Renewal and Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority for this initiative. Together, they sourced, provided, packaged, and delivered much-needed food. Foundation Director Rupert Hayward said their aim is to provide hurricane relief efforts, adding families in the devastated communities continue to recover from Hurricane Dorian. In light of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has also been a challenge, he said the need for food is greater than ever. The Relief Foundation sourced and provided the food. The team at Sigma Gamma Rho sorted and packed the goods, then put them in the hands of Urban Renewal for distribution. Still to come, Aliv relaunches its Together campaign. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Telecom's giant Aliv has created an online platform where community organizations can raise money and donate to those affected by the pandemic. Event sponsorship and community lead Jamie Pinder says the Together campaign makes way for donations, which the company will match.
So once a nonprofit organization submit a business license and the required information, we start a community page on our website, and they're able to start their own campaigns to raise money for their various causes. If you want to donate, you just visit together.bealive.com. You click Give to select your campaign that you choose to give to, and you can insert your card information and you can donate to them.
Aliv has given nearly $2 million in fundraising to various communities. Senior Business Development Projects lead Kendrick Delaney says it's in partnership with the Cable Cares Foundation.
Today we are launching a new matching grant for persons who have been experiencing financial difficulty from COVID-19, where you could actually raise some funds for yourself and Aliv will match that up to $500. So we put $40,000 in the pot. If you'd like to raise some funds, whether it's for homeschooling or food security, just let us know your project. You can visit our website and learn more about the application, and then we'll host your campaign online.
Thank you for joining us for Our News Tonight. To catch our news on the go, download the RevGo Play app. On behalf of the entire news team, I'm Jared Higgs. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.